Throughout baseball history, there have been hitters who didn't just step into the batter's box, they owned it.
There is number 100 and the Pirates lead 3-0.
These weren't just players swinging for the fences, they were psychological weapons, engineered to break the minds of opposing pitchers before the first pitch was even thrown. What you're about to discover goes beyond statistics and highlight reels. This is about the batters who turned America's pastime into a mental warfare battlefield, where fear was their greatest weapon. Welcome to Diamond Conspiracies. Tonight we expose the truth about baseball's most terrifying hitters. Before we reveal who these intimidating forces were, you need to understand what made them different. It wasn't just power, though they had plenty of that. It wasn't just skill, though they were masters of their craft. It was something darker, something the league doesn't want you to fully comprehend. These batters weaponized intimidation. They understood that baseball is 90% mental, and they made sure opposing pitchers were defeated before they ever released the ball. Let's start with the most feared hitter who ever lived. Barry Bonds didn't just hit home runs, he made pitchers question their entire existence. Here's what they don't tell you about Bonds' intimidation factor. In 2004, he was walked 232 times. 120 of those walks were intentional. That's not just a record, that's surrender. Entire teams gave up trying to pitch to him. But the real conspiracy? They walked him with the bases loaded, multiple times. Think about that. Teams were so terrified of what Bonds could do that they willingly gave up runs rather than let him swing the bat. Documents from that era reveal something chilling. Opposing managers would hold meetings specifically about how to avoid pitching to Bonds. Not how to get him out, how to avoid him entirely. This wasn't baseball anymore. This was psychological warfare, and Bonds was worse than Napoleon Bonaparte. But before Bonds terrorized modern pitchers, there was the man who invented fear at the plate. Babe Ruth didn't just change baseball, he weaponized it. Picture this, it's 1921. You're a pitcher facing a man who hit more home runs than entire teams. Ruth had 59 homers that season. The second place hitter had 24. Play with that. Sources from that era describe something that sounds almost supernatural. Pitchers would literally shake when Ruth stepped into the box. Not from cold, from terror. Here's the conspiracy the history books won't tell you. Ruth would call his shots. Not just the famous called shot in the World Series. He did this regularly. He would point to where he was going to hit the ball and then do it. That's not confidence. That's psychological domination. Ruth understood that breaking a pitcher's mind was more effective than breaking his fastball. Ted Williams approached intimidation differently. While Ruth used power and Bonds used presence, Williams used something more terrifying: perfection. Williams was the last man to hit 400, but here's what they buried in the archives. He did it while openly taunting pitchers about their inability to get him out. Witnesses describe Williams standing in the box, calling out what pitch was coming next. Fastball, high and outside, he'd yell. Then he'd turn on it for a double. The conspiracy runs deeper. Williams lost 5 prime years to military service, but when he returned, he was somehow even more intimidating. In 1958, at age 40, he hit .328 and won a battling title. How does a 40-year-old hitter get better after missing 5 years? The answer lies in what Williams discovered about the mental game, secrets that died with him. They called him the Big Hurt for a reason. At 6'5" and 240 pounds, Frank Thomas didn't just intimidate with his size, he intimidated with his intelligence. Here's what the league tried to hide. Thomas was the first hitter to systematically use video analysis to break down every pitcher he faced. While others relied on instinct, Thomas turned hitting into a science. But the real intimidation factor? Thomas had a ritual. Before every at-bat, he would take practice swings with an aluminum bat during batting practice, sending balls into the stratosphere. Opposing pitchers would watch in horror as baseballs disappeared into the night. This wasn't showing off. This was mental warfare. Thomas wanted every pitcher to see what he was capable of before they ever faced him in the game. Ken Griffey Jr. was different. While others intimidated through power or presence, Griffey intimidated through pure, effortless perfection. The conspiracy around Griffey goes deeper than his sweet swing. Sources reveal that opposing pitchers would actually request not to face him in crucial situations. Not because they couldn't get him out, but because watching him hit was so demoralizing. Griffey made hitting look so easy that it broke pitchers' confidence in their own abilities. When you watch a man turn on a 95-mile-per-hour fastball like it's batting practice, it changes something in your mind. Here's what they don't want you to know. Griffey's intimidation factor was so strong that some pitchers developed what psychologists now recognize as Griffey syndrome, the inability to throw strikes when facing a hitter who made the impossible look routine. Today's most intimidating hitter stands 6 foot 7 inches and weighs 282 pounds. Aaron Judge isn't just big, he's a psychological weapon disguised as a baseball player. When Judge steps into the box, something changes in the stadium. The crowd gets louder, the pitcher's heart rate increases, the catcher calls for different pitches. But here's the conspiracy. Judge's intimidation factor isn't just about his size or his power, it's about what he represents. The evolution of the intimidating hitter into something baseball has never seen before. At 6 foot 7 inches, Judge is the largest human being to ever play outfield in Major League Baseball. When he swings and misses, the sound alone is intimidating. When he makes contact, it's terrifying. These weren't just great hitters. They were psychological architects who understand that baseball is played as much in the mind as it is on the field. The league has spent decades trying to downplay the intimidation factor, focusing on statistics and analytics. But the truth is simpler and more frightening. Some hitters were so dominant that they broke the fundamental competitive balance of the game. They didn't just hit baseballs, they hit souls. The next time you watch a great hitter step into the box, remember this. You're not just watching an athlete, you're watching a predator who has turned America's pastime into their personal hunting ground. These were the most intimidating batters in baseball history, but their true power wasn't in their swing. It was in their ability to win the game before it even started. The game of the mind. The conspiracy continues. The intimidation never ends.